Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm sitting here with DJ Producer UBUR. Did I say that right? I don't know why. Sometimes I feel like
Yeah,
I don't say it right. Like I type it in my phone, I'm like Uber, and then I like
I
look
I
at it,
mean
I'm
the
like, I think I'm pretty
wackiest,
right there.
like it is pronounced Uber, but like the wackiest like pronunciations. I've heard Uber, Uber, what other?
Uber.
I think some people
I
literally
like
just
Uber.
pronounce like each letter like NASA, or it's like UBUR. It's like
Nice.
okay, okay, yeah, sure.
I like Uber. I like that.
Uber is a lot
Uber.
of fun.
I like Uber. I won't say that. Hopefully, I don't say that for the rest of the podcast. That'd be embarrassing. But dude, so what's been happening with you, man? What's going on? Shows aren't happening. We got festivals stopping. I know coronavirus is hitting everybody hard, but what have you been doing in your free time with that?
I mean like it's a really boring answer, and I tell everyone this, but I've just been pretty much working on music every day and just going to school, finishing my degree. There's not much you can really do around this time. I mean, like I'm working out and like staying in shape and trying to eat healthy, but up until that like yeah, just make music.
I mean, yeah, there's not much else you can really do. I know
Pretty
it's
much.
it's difficult. It's a good time though to be like creative and get things moving. I guess I don't know. Some artists might have been in a rut, and others might take this time to do a little like break and stuff like that. It's just I'm always get curious on like who does what and how they're doing it. But are you
Yeah, I
trying new
know.
things,
Like
experimenting and stuff like that? Like how like
oh,
what is COVID? What
so
I know it sucks, but maybe there's some shining like good thing that comes out of it.
yeah. So like touching on that topic, like I know a lot of my friends like this is like a blessing and a curse for some people because like for me personally, I don't mind being like indoors and like working a lot on music because this is pretty much where I'm most comfortable. But I know a lot of people are like almost like stressed by the fact that shows aren't happening and like they're like even though some people are given essentially an infinite amount of time to just work on like music.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like helpful for some people just because it's like, oh, you also have like the looming stress of like your career might not be a thing.
That's very true. I definitely
Yeah.
didn't. I definitely didn't look at
So
it that
so
way. So I
like
could see where that would like
like
be in the back of someone's head constantly, where they're like, "Oh God, like why am I even doing
yeah,
this? Like what's going on? Like why would I make this new music if I don't even know what's gonna happen?" Type of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. And uh, for me, I try not to think of it. I like brain go smooth. Brain go smooth is the best way to approach everything, in my opinion. But yeah, like for some people it's just like this situation is like very mentally taxing, and like it's understandable too, just because it's like something completely new and that's happened, and it could just really just be difficult for a lot of people just to even write music
Yeah,
in a situation like this.
yeah, and you kind of mentioned something that I it popped in my head that I didn't think of is like when you're in the zone of touring and doing shows and writing music, and you're just in that zone of like grind, grind, grind type of thing. When it
Hmm.
stops, you do have that kind of like, okay, what's going on? Like it's I'm no longer in that grind mode, and it's something to say about when you're in that zone of like I'm doing this, and it's just like go, go, go. That when it does come to an end, you're like okay, you're like looking around like something should be happening right now, but it's not, and it almost like messes with that rhythm of things.
I feel like, well, for me personally, when like I'm doing a lot of shows, like whether it be on a tour or I just have a lot of shows booked, like it's a whole lot harder for me to get comfortable and write music in an environment. Granted, I was also like someone who could only produce on studio monitors. Now I'm getting a little bit better with producing on. It's tangled up. Producing on headphones. Right now, I produce on my M Audio 5 inch BX5. Well, yeah, BX5s, which is their small 5 inch monitor. I got the pair for like $200, so super good deal. But when I'm using headphones, I just use Bose noise canceling headphones just because they're all right, but it's more about getting used to your speakers or your headphones
Mm-hmm.
more rather than getting the best quality speakers or headphones, in my opinion. But also, like the noise canceling is super helpful too, because if I have my fan going, it's like a hot day or something. This will just cancel that out, and it makes tuning into sounds much easier.
So that's interesting. Like, so you're saying that you at first you're producing with studio speakers, and do you like that because of just like the overall sound seemed better? It's like
Um,
why was that
so
such an odd transition? And that's because I don't know. I've never,
oh no, that's fine.
truthfully.
With monitors, like for the money you can spend, you will get a much better value and a much like even what would it be called? I'm kind of blanking out on this right now. Just like you will get like a flat sound essentially. You won't have as much coloration for the money essentially. Like monitors are the best value thing you can get for producing. When you get into the headphones, it gets a lot trickier because I'm like it's just a smaller speaker. So I think the problem is I don't know a ton about how exactly um, studio monitors differ from studio headphones,
Hmm.
but like what I can assess is just like you can just it's harder to pack the same quality of
So do you feel like?
electronics
So I
in
guess
the
what I'm trying to
headphone.
ask is like, do you feel like you can like hear more on the monitor set? Is that kind of what it is? Like when you're doing more synths
You,
and chops
you get a clearer
and
sound,
bet
just on average. You get like a clearer sound, but
clearer sound for it.
it's
Cool.
if you can get accustomed to headphones and get accustomed to like how they sound and be able to make a good product out of that, that's realistically the only thing that matters. It's like you just want something that has like good like reception all around. Like
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that subs are completely necessary, even though you're producing what's quote unquote bass music, because even with monitors, you can pretty much tell what sub frequencies sound like just by cupping the little plastic that surrounds the cone. Because like all sub really is, you can't truly hear it. You can feel, but you can feel it, and like by cupping the cone, you can essentially feel the vibrations and say, "Oh, that's probably pretty decent sub response."
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So what would your like dream studio setup be? Now I'm curious because now we're talking about it. What is it that you
Oh, I
would?
don't know. I feel like I'm really like someone who tries to advocate like budget studios because I feel like a lot of high end studio equipment is like a scam.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, because like the amount of money you pay for and the amount of benefit you would get out of it, it just is like so small. And like for some people, it's like that's completely worth it. If you're like um, if you're doing like beats for like Travis Scott or you're a mixing engineer for like any of these like big like producers or like big musicians or anything like that, and you might have like see way more benefit from having those like high end studio setups. But even then, it's just like yeah. This is like now I'm getting into like consumer economics for
Let's go. Let's go. Right up the major
producers.
alley. Right up the major alley.
I just think that really the best you can do is like try to get yourself a budget set up. Like I said, I really stand by the M Audio BX5s. I think they already have like a third version out. I have like the first version of this monitor, and I don't see really too much need to upgrade it. I got isoacoustic monitor stands where they essentially bring the monitors up closer to your ears, and when you have a more direct signal to your ears, you'll have a clear sound. Um, and like so you can raise it and everything, and it also prevents vibrations because it has like rubber on both sides on the top of the stand and the bottom of the stand. So it's like all of that really helps prevent like mud from the speaker itself vibrating on like a desk or something. So really you should try to just make sure you're getting a clear audio response and you have decent quality monitors. That's in my opinion the most important things. Also have a sound card
What was that?
too.
I'm sorry.
Dedicated sound card like Scarlett 2i2 or something like that.
Okay. All right. I that stuff to me like I wouldn't have known any difference of what was like I would not have known anything about setting the speakers versus having the speakers up. Like that's interesting to me how like that alone can affect the way you're hearing the music and when you're playing it back and such like that. I just never would have thought
Yeah,
about that personally.
yeah. So like that's like the like surface level of just like what you should do, and
Right.
then like it gets into stuff where it's like, oh, you should probably have like a carpet floor. You should also treat your walls with foam, well, essentially noise
Noise
sound
canceling stuff.
reverb reducing
Right.
foam. I forget the actual term for it, but that's all it does. Because what happens is once you're like, this is getting into like physics of sound. It's like once your sound comes out of something, it's going to be reflected off of a wall essentially, and it'll bounce back and like create. That's how reverb is essentially created. And so when you get like the foam essentially, that will like it will absorb the sound essentially, but like absorb and like it'll just like take the sound, it'll just bounce it off itself and just reduce it. So it's pretty much
Right. So you're not getting that
not audible.
almost like echo. It's not. I wouldn't. Would it be considered like an echo because it's coming back, or is it called?
So echo and reverb are
Oh, that's right. You said
pretty
reverb.
much the
I
same
apologize.
thing. It's just like reverb is like a tighter version of it, almost. But yeah, like that's pretty much the whole idea. It's just to get a clear signal
Right. Right.
so that you can hear something without like any disruption. So you could just hear the audio signal and be like, okay, every change I make. Well, the goal is to essentially be able to make the most exact changes as possible. But I'd also argue that you don't need to be 100% exact because no one's going to be in a perfect listening environment to listen to that to begin with.
That's true.
So
a lot of
as long as it sounds good, that's the most important part. Because no matter how much money you actually spend, um, it's not gonna make your music better per se.
right. So like the equipment is only as much of an extension as the artist, really, basically. Like as
Yeah,
much as what they're putting in and the work they're doing for that song and etc. mix, and then if it's good, it'll interpret when they go out on stage and when they go out to play it at a festival or
yeah.
something like that. Either way, because
Um,
especially like you're saying, like think about like outdoor festivals and stuff, like they're not going to have the phone, they're not going to have like I mean there won't be as much reverb just because they're outside. There's nothing that can really
well,
bounce off of too
also with
much. But
festivals too, like especially dubstep festivals, you're not trying to get an even audio signal for
interesting.
anything. Like everyone talks about like, oh, we got X amount of subwoofers in this well, let's just say in this club environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like people are like, fuck yes, I want to hear the sub, which is like a big part of dubstep. And it's like everyone, especially when I was getting into it, it's like, oh, I want to hear the song with the loudest sub, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
that's
And you're
exactly
just turning up the sub on your car
yeah.
too, and it's like like making your like making the actual signal clip out of your speaker, but you don't care because it's like, whoa, the sub's going. Boom.
I always remember being like in the car with your friends and they wanted someone got the sub and it's like in the back of their Honda Civic and it's just like and it's just like the back of it's just shaking and everyone's like, yeah, it's great, and it's just the whole thing's shaking. Or I love when you're getting those friends' cars and they've got like a beat up car and the like back is rattling like you know what I'm talking. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like the trunk is like literally like you hear the rattle more than the actual sub or anything. Like it's just like
that's a certain appeal to it. But
always crack me up and be like, that's
yeah,
a lot of money
like the thing is, it's like most people aren't even listening to something like at a like just a flat audio signal. So it's like as long as it sounds good on a flat system, it'll probably sound good on something colored, like essentially any car system or like a MacBook speaker or like AirPods or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you just want to make sure that it sounds good on a flat system, so that way it'll sound good on something that's colored.
So when you say colored, you're meaning what exactly? 'Cause I've never heard the term.
Okay, well I guess that's not a very like accurate description. Like essentially color, like from what I have understand colored, because some like companies like Bose,
Yeah,
they don't try to necessarily make a flat listening experience where the signal is as clear as possible.
mm-hmm.
They try to like, since they're on a headphone setup, they're trying to compensate for the restrictions that headphones come with.
Oh,
And
okay.
so like
I see what you're saying.
essentially they'll like if this is an audio signal, they will like boost the low end. I don't know if this is exactly like how I'm going to be showing up on the video, but like if the low end is over here, they're going to be boosting the low end
Yeah.
just to compensate for the restrictions that their headphones would have.
That's super interesting. I never thought about that, and like I just never thought about it in general of like the producing equipment would obviously it makes sense that it would be different and create that flat, sound, but I've just never thought like there'd be that big of I don't know why. That's just like stupid
Yeah,
me, but like that's cool that there's the producing equipment that's out there is creating this flat frequency, I guess is the word to use.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah. Like at the same time, like I'm pretty sure what I'm saying like is mostly accurate. I'm sure that I'm getting some stuff mixed up or like maybe not explaining everything properly. But I mean, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure most of what I'm saying is accurate. At the same time, I'm sure like if you're interested in it, like you can literally like look up speaker response like frequency responses and see like how your personal speaker like has a like frequency response compares to like other
mhm.
speakers. Something like the one I like to like often compare to is the KRK, which is a very popular monitor that I really don't like. I think like the problem with the KRK, in my opinion, is that it tries to like advertise itself as like a flat studio speaker, well studio monitor, but it tends to be more colored than most other monitors, and specifically like that low end example, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that they boost the low end frequency itself. And like I said, you can go to the frequency response charts for something like a KRK. I think they're also called sound curves. Yeah, and you can see how they compare to other frequency responses.
That's wild.
But yeah,
That's
you
like
can like when it comes to like speakers
yeah.
or like headphones or just like AirPods or anything like that, you can go super deep and super detailed into it because those are like super complex things and they all have to do with like engineering, physics, and then you're getting into the physics of sound
Oh,
and
dude,
well, yeah,
it's
the physics of
it's
sound.
so
That's
wild to me, like how much stuff goes into that stuff, like speaker wise, and we just out here just like, oh yeah, I got a new speaker today. Like, look at my new JBL. Like, it's great.
yeah,
What? Look at the
speaker cool.
look at the little thing go move. Look at the little JBL thing move.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, at the end of the day, it's not like some people are really into it's like, oh, you should know how your refrigerator works
okay, well, I'm not
because
that crazy.
you should just know how your refrigerator works because you're stupid if you don't know how the refrigerator works. It's like, no, that's not the case. You can like absolutely utilize a refrigerator while having no idea how something
Yeah, just
works.
like the microwave. It just works. It
Yeah,
just heats. I just
yeah,
know it heats my food up. Like, there we go.
yeah,
What
exactly.
else is there?
But
Am I
like
getting cancer?
it,
Maybe, but my food is
it
being heated up. I don't know.
it's interesting to know, and it's like, and if you want to repair something, then it's like, yeah, that's super useful, but not, you don't need to know how to use everything. That like, I feel like that would almost be a waste of time. Like, if anything,
Oh
like
yeah, for
one thing
sure.
that my brother likes to say is, I this is probably gonna like be, well, it's a quote from someone, but it's something along the lines of like you can put in 20% effort to get 80% of the work done, but like that extra bit more of effort is not like you're not going to get as much benefit essentially from putting that extra bit of effort. It really just depends on how much you want to like get that 100% benefit.
Yeah, and I also feel like how useful is it? Like what you're like you're saying, like you could learn everything, but like what are you gonna do with that? Like
Yeah,
what like okay,
but like
you know how the fridge works. What are you gonna do with it if you're not repairing fridges? Like like because
yeah,
unless that's your job, then it like doesn't make sense to really know why. Like I get what you're saying. At least in my head, that's what kind of what I thought you
yeah,
were saying. But
exactly. And like I mean, like for stuff like music production, like for me, I get a lot more benefit from by like putting in like a significant amount of effort just to get a little bit more benefit back, just because this is sort of my job now.
yeah,
So like,
exactly.
I should be putting in as much effort as possible. but like just learning like how speakers could like the ins and outs of speakers, like just knowing a little bit can go a really long ways on like helping production
I mean, I bet it
essentially.
makes, at least in my head after we're talking about this, like it makes to me it makes sense that like excuse me, like venues and stuff like that would have somebody with a little bit of knowledge as to like, oh, get this one because it'll make the venue sound better, and we want it to be, X amount, X and Y, like
Yeah,
this sound. Like I don't know, because if you think
yeah.
about it,
Well,
like
I
there
mean,
are venues you've probably played at, and there's venues I've been at where I think the sound is better than where it was before, like where I might have saw an artist previously.
yeah. So like when it comes, yeah, I mean, I'm no expert in this, but like
Now we're getting into
speaker
like,
setups like for rooms is like a whole job when it within itself. And like, I mean, granted, for most of the part, it's most of the time for clubs, it's just a one-time cost.
mhm.
And maybe if some people are adding extra speakers, like whether it be subs or just more sound systems to just make the shit louder, they'll usually have to bring in a guy who will have to help organize and like use like meters to essentially monitor like what would be the best place to orient the speakers essentially.
I could see that. I think that, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me because like you were saying, like some venues have better acoustics just in general, and it's
Yeah,
like, okay, like, oh, we're gonna put the speaker over here because it makes sense over here, like, but it's just like, to me, I look at that, like I go to the if I go to the club, I don't think about that, but then like when I'm here, I'm
yeah,
like, I wonder why it's like, now I'm intrigued, like why is it over there, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's just when it comes to like club settings and everything, I'm sure people are like getting bored. It's like, what the hell are you talking
yeah,
about? Just clubs and speakers and everything like that.
we just want to get drunk and
Uh,
listen to music, god damn it, like we don't
yeah,
care.
I don't know, but yeah, it's just something interesting to think about, in my opinion.
But it does make the, like, again, to me, I look at it, I'm like, it's something that's there that we might not take into account as like normal people, but like it's what's making the experience better. Like you might not
Yeah,
like you're there, you're getting drunk, you don't care, but like it might not be as good of a time if it was, the speaker was hanging above you, like I don't know, like something stupid, like
yeah,
it's just, oh, it's in a corner facing the wall, like okay, like yeah, that's gonna not sound as good.
yeah. Well, I mean, like when it comes to just anything like quality wise, I feel like you would have to like when like making anything, you should try to like please your like most critical critic almost, or most knowledgeable critic,
It's a
something
good
like
way of
that.
looking at it. Like with anything you do, whoever your biggest critic is, you try to strive to like one
Yeah,
up them.
essentially, like most knowledgeable or like most yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's just you would want that because if you appease them, then everyone else that wouldn't know as necessarily as much would probably still enjoy it, if not more.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also thinking of it as like a sense of like, I mean, today like with social media and stuff is like, do you take into account what people say? Like, when you say biggest critic, is it like someone like a mentor, or like is it like people on Instagram like that song was, I don't wasn't a fan of that song. And you're like, oh, I gotta get
Well,
better
for
for the group of
producing,
people. It's
like I guess the best idea would be like the person like pretty much the bigger producers or the more talented producers. Like if you were trying to make a song, you would want it to be as high quality as possible, so that other producers who might hear that
and use it.
be, hey, that's a sick song. I'm gonna put those in my set because I like how this sounds and I want to play this out to crowds.
It's very true. I mean, thinking of like like Excision, of course, is the big one that comes to mind, and he's got like his Excision selects, he's got his Lost Lands compilation, and usually those are artists that are featured, and you've been featured before. Like that's a good point of like you're trying to strive to where they hear it and go, "That's a banger. Crowd's gonna love
Yeah.
this. This is what I'm."
Well, I mean that's a very business-esque way of approaching it, but like at the same time, it's like for me personally, like I just want to make music that I enjoy listening to, but I also want it to be like very quality. And yeah, like I think the biggest problem right now is there's a lot of music coming out, and it's not all necessarily. super good quality, and it's getting harder and harder to find people who are trying to like push the quality level
Hmm.
of dubstep, whether it be creativity wise or actual sound wise. And it's just like it's starting to become a very difficult task as dubstep is becoming more popular.
Yeah,
So
that's
that is something that me and some of my friends are striving towards.
making the better quality of dubstep. That is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, essentially.
essentially. I mean, it is crazy to me, like as a fan and someone that's just kind of watching. I'm not involved. I don't really make music and stuff like that. But it's like watching how dubstep seems to just have like exploded and gotten bigger and bigger. Like at least here in the States, it seems that way. Like it's just kind of taken over. I feel like at every festival and whatnot. Like those are the stages
Oh
that
yeah,
seem to be the most crowded, like the biggest attractions. I mean, look at Lost Lands and Base Canyon; those are huge now. I feel like that's all that it's talked about on Twitter. Like it's like it's just crazy to see that. And you bring up a point of like I see a lot of artists and lower tier artists stuff like that that are just doing dubstep and putting out dubstep and or rhythm and stuff like that, and that's what's hot right now, and they're just putting it out. But like you're saying, I don't know if they're putting their own unique style on it or what. I
yeah.
don't know if that makes sense.
Um, like yeah, the biggest problem is just like whenever you get something that's popular. I'm going to go back to economics here because I just have been doing econ for the
Dude,
past 4 days.
we gotta
So it's
talk
like,
about that. We gotta talk about that econ major
oh
you
yeah,
got
yeah,
going,
yeah.
bro.
But like econ brain go,
Supply and demand.
it's yeah, yeah. Hold on, I'm just gonna do supply. I like doing this because this is how you essentially
That's how
organize
they
the
do it. That's how
supply.
I would do it in class too. You put up the graph, and you're like, okay, like
Yeah,
here as
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Like look
yeah.
if it's
I've
here,
just
if it's
always been doing
here.
that since high school. But like you essentially, well, I guess it wouldn't be the best argument to use a supply and demand curve, but
I was just saying that to be funny, like just saying like I was just shouting out economic stuff. I'm sorry.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
pretty much.
give your
But
example
yeah,
for sure, but yeah.
but essentially what's happening is just like with the increased popularity and the more accessibility of just like producing equipment, like well, producing programs like Ableton, FL Studio, Reason. Like if you want to talk about Reaver or what's the other one? I can't remember. I
What's
can't
your
remember
go-to?
the other one. But
Quick off topic. What's your go-to though? Producing
oh, FL,
FL.
FL Gang.
FL
but
gang.
but essentially like the more accessibility everything is, where whether it be like in the programs itself, the plugins that you would be using, or like YouTube videos for tutorials on how to use the programs, how to use the programs to achieve certain sounds, and like how to organize stuff. It's just all that's becoming more accessible, and also the demand for dubstep in like a market like the US is rising, and it's just pushing like the equilibrium farther to the right, which would just mean they right now dubstep is in a really interesting place just because like there's so much demand for it. There's more demand, I'd say, that for dubstep than there's ever been. And like you have also a lot of people coming into the market to essentially either make dubstep or throw dubstep shows, or just work within the industry somehow, like work in that little sphere. So it's a really interesting market just because of all these factors and all these variables. And it's like you have the most dubstep artists that you ever had in one period of time. But as a result, you have like a lot of people putting out very like um, not necessarily like creative, but like there's not as much innovation as there was
Right.
5 years ago, and that's just because there's so many people entering the market, and there's already a lot of ideas that have been done before. So I think a big problem with dubstep right now is it's like, okay, so where do we take this genre? And there's people who are definitely pushing it. Like the biggest one of the biggest pushes we've seen in dubstep recently, and it's with polyrhythm, with how it's not a simple 4x4 track structure. It's it's more technically more jazz like, since it's going off with I think what 7/4. structure, but it's not too different from like normal EDM structure, albeit.
It's interesting. That I wasn't. I'm not sure about the numbers there. I'll be honest with you. So,
Yeah.
but you are right, because it's like we were saying, it's gotten very almost like saturated. Like there's so it's
Yes.
so big. There's such a need for it, but at the same time, it's very hard to distinguish yourself in it. Because exactly what you're saying, in a sense. If I'm
Yeah, and
summing it up.
a lot of the ways people are doing it now is through marketing, and like at the end of the day, it's like what you're essentially doing is you're essentially a business
Mm-hmm.
who is like also like supplying music as a product.
Yeah, you're no
It's
longer
like
just like an artist. You're almost like a whole brand.
it's more about like being a brand or a business. Almost, it's like you are a shop, and one of the items you sell is music, and the other is like merchandise, and the other is essentially shows. Well, even though the artists themselves aren't really putting on shows,
Mm-hmm.
they're usually co-promoted somehow.
Right.
If they are like if it's like a part of the tour.
Of course.
But
Right.
like realistically, the only person who has the resources to actually do most of that themselves is like Excision with Base Canyon and Lost Lands. So like in Excision's case, he also like one of the products he puts out is literally festivals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so yeah, that's all within like the shop of a brand almost. So it's just like one product.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely, especially nowadays with like social media and all that, it's gotten to be even bigger and more important that like you're doing your social media, you're promoting the brand, quote unquote. You know, your
Yeah.
music, your and whatever, like exactly what you're saying, your merch, your brand, your music, your shows. Like it's crazy to me that that's how it's become now. Like you're no
Yeah.
longer just an artist. You're an artist, but you're also dabbling in this and that, and you gotta know a little bit about everything, or you have to have a team that can do it and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So I tend to get really analytical about stuff like this just because it's like that's what I personally like to do.
Oh, let's dive
But
in. I love
also at the
this.
same time, I think it's really interesting just because like you have like some people who you'll have people like Space Laces who will literally like their brand is the music.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's pretty much what all the producers essentially want to do. But like at the same time, Space Laces is probably like most people would probably agree that Space Laces is one of the best like EDM producers of all time. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to be in a position where you could just completely rely on your music for your brand. Even like people like Skrillex, where like the music is still a big part of what makes Skrillex Skrillex.
Agreed.
He has other aspects like the way he styles his hair. Like that's a very iconic look, and like having an iconic look can go a really long way. Where you have like people like Little Texas or Subtronics, who are like they have a very like if you saw them in a crowd, you would immediately be able to recognize them.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. I've never thought about the hair and stuff as well as like
Yeah,
it is interesting to me how like it's all just become
it's all
yeah,
about
it's
like
all about
having a cohesive package, and like
cohesive brand pack. Yeah, it's
what I'm personally trying to do is like I just really love cartoons, and like I also have just been trying to get like I've always wanted to make like heavy dubstep essentially,
Mhm.
and like I'm finally getting together like those sort of ideas, and I'm just like piecing all that together to be a part of the brand, and like I still have more ideas that I want to execute on. It's just more about it's when's the right time
so
essentially.
when you say a cartoon, like what do you mean? Like we can make a dubstep cartoon type thing, like a
Yeah, well, I mean, like
cartoon
almost
visuals
like
and stuff
that.
like that.
Like right now, like I have Junkyard LA doing pretty much all of my artwork covers, and like he like hits a very specific niche that I really like, where
Yeah, I
it's
love
like
your. I have that one up right now. I was listening to
yeah,
one of
yeah,
my.
that's
I
still
love. I
one of
think
my
they're so
favorite
cool.
one of my favorite art covers. But
Chocolate.
so right now, like it hits a very specific niche where it's like early 19 1920s. No, I guess it would be 1930s to 1950s cartoons where they're black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like some of them are like really interesting because they like go into like delve into aspects of like death and hell and it's like shit like that, and it's like kind of spooky, and it hits a really cool aesthetic in my opinion, where it's like you got that evil aesthetic, but it's also put together within like something happy, fluffy cartoon, and I think that's a hilarious dichotomy almost. I'm not sure if I'm using that word correctly, but it's a lot. It's contrast, and I really
Yeah,
like
that's a
high
good word for it.
contrast
That's a
stuff.
good word for it right there. Contrast of just like the cartoon.
Yeah,
Because when you think of cartoons, like I immediately thought of like just cartoons like Flintstones and stuff like that, like just happy
yeah,
stuff, and then like you're like bringing in that like the one we just showed has the guy with like the tongue out, like it's like
yeah,
it gives
yeah. With
a
the
little
razor
sense
blade
of
on the tongue.
yeah, a little sense of demonic, like a little bit dark, and you're like, okay, what's going on with this cartoon?
Yeah,
I know.
I think personally what I like doing, because I think it's really cheesy doing anything like hell devil yeah witchcraft like if that's your thing go for it, but like I feel like most of the time people get like super cheesy with it,
Satanic
and
symbols,
so
yeah.
so I think it's much more interesting for me personally to like go like try to get as creepy as you can without actually like using tropes
Okay.
essentially.
Or yeah. So I always feel like too with like a lot of the I feel like that's a big topic too. Sometimes on EDM world is like the satanic symbolism and stuff. I always hear that sometimes, at least on Twitter, I've seen it where people are
Oh,
like,
it's so
"Oh, I
funny
hear
because
this, and like I see it, and I'm uncomfortable," and it's like, "Oh, well,"
yeah,
and
they all say that for Sun Death, which is the funniest thing because it's like I feel like I've talked to him about like that sort of aspect, and he's pretty much in the same boat as me, where we're trying to just like go as creepy as possible without being like delving into cliches.
yeah, they definitely he definitely gets that like
Yeah,
satanic music around.
like the only thing that you could actually say that is satanic about Sudden Death is what he has one visual that has the devil goat statue in it, where it's doing this thing, and it's pretty much a spinning around. But it's like that's it. It's like
You
that's the
know,
only thing you can do.
it just cracks me up because they see like the blood red visual or like the lasers are red and they're just
If
like,
you're
oh
just
my
not
god,
having a
like
good time, there's nothing wrong with that.
no,
And
there isn't at all. I'm not
yeah,
knocking
but
him at all or anything like that. I just think it's funny, like, cause you're right though. He does like, get that rep, but at the same time, like now that you mention it, I'm like looking back, I'm like, I don't think I have seen any like satanic compared to some others. I'm like, I don't
yeah,
think I've really seen that much. Like, you're totally right. Like, it's just not there.
yeah. Well, it's there's like yeah, I think it's just more interesting being able to like hit that creepy vibe, hit that like otherworldly vibe without actually delving into cliches, because that's like cliches are what makes brands corny in my opinion. But like that's just like
Pretty valid.
there's like what one person may find corny, like another person may like have never thought of something like that before, and it's like, oh wow, that's cool, and like they may personally resonate with it, and that's completely fine. I'm also a really opinionated person when it comes to just like stuff like that, and I feel like it's also super necessary to be opinionated as an artist, or else you won't um, make interesting stuff
Like,
because you don't have strong opinion on what you should do.
okay, that's what I was gonna ask. So opinions on like what you want to do and like this is what I
Yeah,
want to do. This is what we're doing. Like blah blah. Blah. Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's yeah. I don't know. I like the vibe though. Not like I'm thinking back to it. I want to see some like cartoon stuff, some more cartoons. So that'd be dope. I like it.
yeah.
I'm
Like
thinking of like
the
a.
goal.
Go ahead.
The,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. The goal for me is like eventually I want to get to a point where I can like make a full cartoon and like essentially have like a cartoon playing alongside
That's what I was about to
like
ask, bro.
my music, or like have it like a supporting element, or it's like literally it's like a combination of you're sitting down watching a cartoon and there's essentially like dubstep. Honestly, I'm still thinking of everything. Everything's still like a big work in progress in my head, but there's definitely some steps I want to get like go to essentially reach that vision. And until then, I'm just like trying to acquire resources. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm
like
grabbing all
seeing,
the shit.
yeah, getting it together. That's dope. That'd
Yeah.
be so cool. Because almost like when I think of artists that do, and they I wouldn't say that it's cartoonish, but like Ganja White Knight has their like animation videos that go to
Yeah.
those songs, and they
I
have,
think that what they're doing, like with their visuals, is really cool. It's always something I've like heavily respected. At the same time, it's like I definitely want to achieve something a lot different than what they are doing.
no, of course,
But
and I
I
think the
will I will
cartoon would.
say their visuals are probably some of my favorite that I've seen in dubstep.
I have like a memory of Lost Lands last year, and my friends and I were on like the rail, and it was during Ganja, and I just remember like looking up and just like I don't remember what song it was, I don't remember anything, but it was the cartoons were just playing or the animations were just playing. And I like looked over, and all my friends were like on the rail, just like mouth open, just like just wide eyed, like watching, like or like not moving at all to the song, like literally just watching,
Yeah,
like that whole
that's
effect
cool.
you're talking about of just like sitting there watching and listening, like that's what they were. They were literally just like just frozen in time watching. It was so
Like
funny.
at the
So
end of the day, you want to make a memorable experience or an impressionable experience, and like for a show.
oh
And
yeah,
whether that be through theatrics or like the visuals themselves or how you organize a set. And there's so many different ways you can approach this. And this is like where it gets to it's like, well, exactly how you want to get to that. And for some people you can do exact like with a performance, that's probably the most common way people tend to make impressionable experiences.
I agreed. Yeah.
Just because it's like that is also the cheapest way to do it because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can do that through like how many songs you can put in a set, how many tracks you can double together, um like what the songs you're playing, and it's like stuff like that. For me personally, I just try to like play as much of my own music as possible. So and like the visual aspect, that's something I'm working on. And then like some stuff like theatrical stuff, it's like you have Void with with how Sudden Death essentially separates his own like his normal sets with his Void sets, and
Right.
that's in a sense a theatrical performance. Or you could even say like well, I guess Excision would be more just on the visual aspect. There's not too many people who do the actual theatrical side, and that's
He's got his the detox
interesting.
sets though as well that are different and
Yeah,
not to the same theatrics of like what you're saying with sudden
I
death or
guess you could
whatnot.
say like whatever costumes or anything that you have,
Okay, I get what you're saying.
like that could be in a sense a theatrical aspect
Yeah,
for
and
shows.
so it's taking, yeah, the goal to be to take and make that memorable moment, make an impression on the people that are there, and
Yeah,
get, and obviously those impressions translate to more listeners, more people coming to the sets, more people going to shows, like all that. Like they have
yeah,
I call it like an impression. They have that impression. You give them that impression, and they're like, "Oh my god," or that memory, and they're like, "Oh my god, I remember that. That was dope. Like we got to go back. Like we got to go do this and blah blah
yeah,
blah." And then
exactly.
then they bring three friends with them one time and or something, and yeah, that's
Well, yeah, essentially, like that's the main thing you would be selling with the show. It's an experience, and like sometimes, like some for some shows, when I was going to shows personally before I was well, I guess I started producing when I was able to go to shows, just because like I started producing at 18, but I wasn't even able to go to a show until like the summer of that year. So I was like producing a little bit before then, but like for me, when I wanted to go to a shows, I was mostly interested in the music. So that's one thing. Like one thing I tried to think about is just like what do I want to hear? Like what would I wanted to have seen? Like
mm,
when I was going to shows. Like what would be the most impressionable thing for me personally? And it's like that, so that's pretty much the main thing I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to please fucking 18-year-old me who doesn't know shit,
yeah.
but like try to do it in the best way I can.
That's smart though, because like again, like you're saying, like when you first went, you didn't know anything. When I first went, I didn't know anything. I just went.
Yeah,
I had a great time,
yeah.
and now I'm
I
back,
went
and
to
now
a
I'm going again, and now I'm
I
going
went to a
again.
show and I didn't even understand what the concept of an opener was. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
What's the set times?
there's
What
levels
the
to
hell?
this. There's different people on right now. Like, you have no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I knew that. I knew there were different people on. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Going off of that with festivals and such, do you have a more memorable festival? Do you have like a most memorable festival? Oh, let's go with that you've been to, and then we'll go with like that you've played.
Okay, so the thing is, I wasn't. I never got to play. Well, I never went to a festival as a listener.
Oh, okay.
Like, I technically have, if you want to count like festivals I played for and stuck around for extra days.
Mm-hmm.
But before I started producing, like, I never had been to a festival, and like the first festival I'd been to was the first festival I played, essentially.
That's crazy.
Festival experiences aren't something I can really like personally attest to, but as far as festivals I've really enjoyed playing, I think Lost Lands is like at the #1 spot, and same thing with Bass Canyon. I really enjoyed both of those festivals. I really enjoy Washington as a state too. It's so beautiful out there.
Yeah, I want to. Bass Canyon's very far from where I am. It's
Yeah,
really across the country. But like, I would love to go at some point. Definitely, I'll make it happen. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
But
like,
go ahead. No, go.
The only other festivals that I think that were super memorable for me was like Hard Summer 2018. I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I guess that would be the top three then.
Top three.
It's like, yeah.
I can remember you played Wampy Woods, if I'm correct, Lost Lands 2018.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I literally before this I was like, I hope my memory serves me right, because that's what I remember seeing him for the first time. I'll be swear, that's like literally the first time I ever seen you. So that was crazy though. How was that? I'm just curious. How was that? Because you have this cool picture on like your Spotify and stuff, and of you like on Wampy Woods, like you're playing at night, like the fucking fires are going, the lights are going. Like, how, dude, just walk me through that, because I am a big Lost Lands like advocate. I'm a big fan. I'm looking all over it. I love it. When I went, it's like home, my festival home, quote unquote. People say all that stuff. Walk me through playing that, man. Like, walk me through how that was, that experience.
So it was a really wacky sort, because like I went to Lost Lands for the whole weekend because that was the first time I ever went there. And
was your first?
Well, actually, you know what was happening? I forgot to book my flight there, and I think I was originally just going to go for the single day, but I'm just like, well, I can only go there from Wednesday, or no, I guess it would have been Thursday. Yeah, I flew out Wednesday, and it was a red-eye flight, and I got there Thursday, and I ended up just staying the whole weekend there, and then flying out, I believe, Tuesday or something like that. So I spent an extra day in Ohio, but I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna essentially spend my whole show fee just to enjoy the festival, because it's my first time there, and I've heard good things about the last festival, so that'll be fun. And I had a great time, like the whole weekend. I had a great time. And when it came time, like the last day, I played Sunday.
Yes.
Last day, when it came time for my set, like I was supposed to be the second set of the day on Wampy Woods, and me and my manager were getting ready to go and everything, and we get stopped. And essentially, what happened? We got a call from the Excision team that said, "Hey, we have some issues that we think there's going to be
the rain." I remember that.
It's going to rain out.
Yeah, it's going to rain out day 3.
Shit. And it's like, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to push some of the headliners before, and hopefully it won't rain out. And there was also some scheduling issues too, because Monks wasn't able to get to
I remember that.
Lost Lands on time. But essentially what happened, it's like, okay, so if it doesn't rain out, you're essentially going to be closing Wampy Woods. So it's like, okay,
sweet.
And it didn't rain out, and I'm like, am I still closing? They're like, yep. I'm like, sick. This is the most amount of people I've ever played in front of in like a single set. And I think it was only 45 minutes because they had to cut the time down.
They had shortened everything that day, I remember.
Yeah. But I'm just walking on there. I'm like, I don't remember how many people were there. I think it was estimated it's like something like 12 or 15,000 people. I don't know. Like, there was a lot of people. Like, by the time I got on the stage, everyone looked like little ants, and I'm just like, oh, hey, what's poppin'?
What's poppin'?
On the microphone. And it was probably The only thing I could say that is even comparable to that is when I did the back-to-back set with Excision at Base Canyon, and that was another like crazy, like huge crowd, and I'm like, when yeah, I'm not used to playing to crowds to that scale just because it's like I'm a much smaller act, and like, and that is like the people who play that are like Flux Pavilion, Skrillex, and just like the biggest acts in dubstep. And so it was like one a really cool experience,
Of course.
and
Oh yeah.
I'm forever thankful for that, obviously. And like two, I had to like mentally coach myself to
Get ready and
get like
prepare for it. Like,
yeah. So I used to do rowing back when I was going to community college, and one like pretty much I was just recycling some of the rhetoric they would say before we were doing races, where they were pretty much just shit talking on teams, and I'm just like, yeah, you're gonna fuck them up. Yeah, you're gonna fuck them up. Punch them in the fucking throat, like shit like that. And I'm just trying to psych myself up so that I can, not look like an idiot
yeah,
to 10,000 people.
gotta get the nerves out, I mean,
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine being up in front of 10,000 people. That's crazy, especially because you're
yeah,
like, oh, I'm playing a headliner spot now. And you're like, yeah, and you're like, all right, let's do it. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna say no, but like, time to
yeah,
fucking grab,
exactly.
get up there, get the courage up, and get up there and just start racking the dubstep out.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, yeah, that's still such a cool experience, and it's definitely something I won't be forgetting anytime soon.
That's crazy. Do you have any like pre set rituals or anything like that you do? I always like to ask people that.
Reset rituals. I mean, like, I make sure to go to the bathroom. That's a that's something
It's
that
pretty
you never
basic.
want
It's pretty good one.
I've never had a situation where I needed to go to the bathroom and I was playing, so luckily that's never happened. But like, yeah, that's something I always make sure I do. It's like because yeah, I guess I wouldn't also like eat or anything before set because you don't want to feel like sluggish or anything. So it's just like stay hydrated, get a lot of water in, make sure you go to the bathroom, pretty much all that.
Cover the basics. That way,
Yeah, yeah,
nothing
pretty
crazy
much cover
happens up there.
basic human needs.
Nothing crazy happens up there for the first hour.
Yeah, no.
I wonder. I've never. That's like something else I've never thought about. Like, I hope that doesn't happen to anybody. I've never noticed it happen to anybody where they're like up there, like, oh fuck, like I gotta get
The
off.
only time I hear that happening is like when people are playing for like 8 hours or something like that. It's like, yeah, dude, get a sandwich. Come on. Do you want anything? I'm going to Subway.
Just eat something. You're killing yourself, man. Just eat. It's hysterical. How did you get started into producing music? When, like, you mentioned that you started producing the same time you started going to shows and stuff like that. But like, when was it where you were like, all right, I want to start producing this, and then you just kind of started diving into it?
So I believe it was 2014. Yeah, I think that's right. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been producing for 6 years. But that's when I actually started producing and got the hang of it. But like up until that point, I like tried producing like I want to say 2 or 3 different times, and I just couldn't get it those first 2 times. And like I was just like, shit, I can't do this. This program is too complicated for my stupid brain. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not stupid. I just need to read the instructions. It's just like,
It's all right.
yeah,
We're just guys being guys. We don't want to read the instructions. We just want to
yeah.
figure it out and
Well,
hope for the best.
like the biggest thing I really needed to do to get into it was just learn how to use the program. And like, I just put in a decent amount of effort, just like learned the basics. I think I spent like a week before I even downloaded anything. Like learning, I'm like, this time I'm gonna actually learn how to do everything. I'm gonna go through how to do everything the right way. So when I got the program, I was able to do stuff with it. I'm like, great. And so that was step one
Yeah.
of like the 200-step program.
Of course.
But the next step that I did, and I spent like pretty much half of the year, I just tried to make sounds, and like I would watch YouTube videos for, and this is 2014, so there wasn't as much um, sound design tutorials,
Mm-hmm.
but there was enough to help me get an idea on how to do it. And the biggest thing I think that I did that most people probably didn't do when they were making like starting out producing, I had a version of Massive, and Massive was like essentially the go-to synthesizer
Okay.
before Serum came out, and yeah, now Serum's a go-to. But like my version of Massive couldn't accept the presets that most websites would offer, because I had like the 1.0 version, and like it had a completely different preset file, and everyone was using the 1.02. So as a result, whenever people were giving out patches, I had to like watch the video and learn how to actually make like turn all the knobs and do everything manually to get
Wow,
that sound. And
that's wild.
that ended up being way more useful for me learning how to actually make sounds, because I'm like, oh, like to get this sort of sound, you have to use this sort of filter or this sort of effect, and it will achieve something similar. So that was like the biggest thing that I did, and I was able to just like start making sounds from scratch after like 6 months of doing that.
That's crazy. That's nuts to me. Like especially because what you're saying now, like YouTube now, I feel like there's tons of stuff. Like it's almost again, like
There's
there's
way
almost
too much
like
stuff.
there's
There's
almost yeah, there's
too
too
much
much. There's
stuff.
too much. You're like watching videos and you're like, why is there a cow in it? I don't understand. Like how did that
No, but like
happen? But
the
no, that's
the accessibility of stuff like that is a blessing and a curse, because it's like you have like more knowledge out there, and like at the end of the day, it's like the more information that's accessible, like the better you like the more information you'll be able to learn and be able to apply to that. But as a result, you have people who are essentially trying to take shortcuts and just like take presets and like take these sounds that they downloaded from Splice, and they could like essentially um, fumble their way into making a track.
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
even though that's kind of mean way of putting it, it's like realistically, there's a decent amount of people who are doing just exactly that, and I would say that is not very healthy for the genre as a whole, because it's like you're putting out like tracks that
They're not original
like
sounds per se.
yeah, well, it's one, it's not original sounds, but two, it like also encourages other people to like do that sort of thing, because if that sound if that song gets any sort of success, tongue twister, that then people will be encouraged to also um, employ sort of those tactics. And like it's also a big reason why like um, one of like the core principles of the dubstep scene has been like you have to synthesize your own sounds, because
Yeah.
it's like well, that's not just like a to deter people from using presets sort of advice. It's there because it's like otherwise you're just going to get a lot of similar sounding shit, and it's just like no one wants to hear the same song over and over again unless there's a like an actual improvement to it. So it's just like stuff like that is I feel like is almost falling out of favor just because of the accessibility of everything, and it's hard. It's harder to synthesize stuff yourself because you don't have any like baseline. You have to figure it out, and you have to know what you're doing. And but at the end of the day, if you can get that far and figure out how to do all that shit
Yeah.
and be able to do it well, it'll be like infinitely valuable.
I mean, in my head, I look at that and I go to take them farther as well too, because they'll be able to. One, they're making their own synthesizers and drops and beats and everything, and then
Yeah,
two, they're creating their own unique
yeah.
sound essentially.
It's all about having control. Like at this point, it's like production has like advanced so far, like like overall, that most people know how to get like a decent sounding track, and like yeah, essentially make put together and make a decent sounding track. But the main thing is like how much control can you really illustrate? Like Space Laces is one of the best producers, like EDM producers of all time, because he's able to put so much control, like illustrate so much control within his tracks, whether it be the sound design or the drums or how the mix down sounds or the general sound of the mix and what he does to like layer and everything. Like there's so many different aspects going on, and all at the same time having like great song ideas that are completely unique to him.
Yeah. Damn. That's some cool stuff. Sorry, I got like a little.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But, yeah, like it's something I think about a lot. Just like when it comes to just like tracks like that. Like I said, I tend to be really analytical about everything. But also at the same time, you should definitely smooth brain because sometimes overthinking is bad.
I overthink shit a lot, so
Yeah.
it's okay. It's understandable. It happens. um, I also want to ask, how did you come up with the name Uber? Uber.
Okay, so
Uber.
back in the
Sorry.
day, I played a lot of Call of Duty on Xbox.
Yeah.
And I think what I ended up thinking of the gamer tag Uber Dolphin because I thought like it was like
that. That's
2010, and I'm like, damn, everybody's saying Uber to me like as like a like to emphasize on something like Uber cool or something like that. And I'm like, that would be funny if I just put dolphin at the end of it. And I like dolphins, and I thought Uber was a funny word. And at the time, it was spelled UBUR. So I just ran with that for a little bit, and it wasn't taken. So I just took that gamer tag, and pretty much, I would like. I ended up just calling myself Uber because everyone on Xbox would just refer to me as Uber because Uber Dolphin is a mouthful.
Yeah.
But,
I like the name Uber Dolphin.
Yeah.
I know that's not going to be your stage name. I like
Yeah.
that name as a gamer tag. That's hysterical.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. But
Uber Dolphin.
so I'm just like, all right, well, I'll just use my producer name as that since I'm already used to that. And it's like there's a lot of artists who like a lot of early artists who literally just took their Xbox gamer tag and used it as their producing alias. So
That's
I'm like
not a
one
bad
of the few
idea.
who still has that. But I didn't realize how much it'd bite me in the ass since the rideshare service like wasn't nearly as popular at that time, and then like 2 years later it becomes super popular. And I'm like, nah, I'll beat this out. I'll beat these guys out. They're not even making money, which is true.
Who's gonna pay for
Uber
a taxi
has never
service?
made a profit, technically.
Who's gonna pay for a taxi service?
Yeah, but I ended up variating on my name in 2018 because I'm like, damn, I'm kind of getting some festival offers. I probably shouldn't have my name just UBER. So
that makes sense.
yeah, I ended up just changing that, and I don't want to change my name.
I like the name. I know. Yeah. There's no need to change it. I like the name.
Yeah,
it's funny. To me, what's funny is though you just were mentioning how like some of the DJs use their gamer tags, and I'm thinking of like the gamer tags I've seen in the world, and like all those people with like XX something, and
yeah,
or what was it? One of my friends had one that was like the Twitchy Worm or something. It was
yeah, something like that.
Headlining your festival today, the Twitchy Worm. I don't know. Just thinking about
conceptually, it's not that bad of an idea.
It really isn't.
Nowadays, it's like you really want your like name to almost like illustrate what you're doing, and it's like there's so many different acts that like their name just works really well with their branding and everything. And I'm sort of an oddball because it's like Uber doesn't necessarily deal like with what I'm going for as a brand aesthetic, but I'm a stubborn son of a bitch, and I will not change it. Like I just stick to stuff, and that's just one thing I'm probably just gonna keep going until it's like absolutely necessary to change it or something like that.
I don't know why it would be. I mean, I think you could make the brand Uber. Like I think your Instagram is pretty unique. Like I love this stuff you post, dude. I think it's hysterical. The freaking
thank you.
It's just like because you have a good balance of like, yeah, here's my music, and then also like, here's me, just like with a coffee mug, like just like.
Oh yeah, the coffee mug. Yeah, that was fun.
I swear, dude, some of the stuff on there and yours cracks me up. Some of the pictures you post, dude, are so funny to me.
I try to just do as high quality content, like in my opinion, where it's like photos of me that I actually like, or something that's funny, or it's like important announcements like music.
Dude, but I mean, people like that authentic stuff. Like that's why I like it. I'm like, dude, this is hysterical. Like it's just him like fucking around. Like I mean, that's why I wanted you on the podcast. You know, you're living yourself living yourself every day. Like that's what your Instagram portrayed to me. I was like, this is hysterical. Like, and then obviously your music and stuff is great. Obviously, it's great. It's amazing. But like like that's what the draw was. I was like, hey, he makes dubstep. I love dubstep. He's got a funny ass Instagram. Like, let's do it. Like, hope it works out. Like, but
Yeah.
keep up the Instagram. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it's like,
Yeah.
it's great.
That, like, the thing is, like, the main thing I try to do is just try to keep everything as high quality as possible. Like, and with Instagram, I try to do that. Just because, like, I feel like the algorithm favors higher quality content in general on Instagram.
I think you're right.
Whereas Twitter, I literally just garbage dump everything that's. I say, I'm like, hey, what's popping? I wake up in the morning, I think about the gabagoo. It's just garbage. It's just absolutely the opposite of what I try to do on Instagram.
Twitter is just like, I saw something the other day that was like, Instagram best me, Twitter what the fuck is going on? Like, it's just like what, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm hoping it sticks. I hope it goes viral. Like, who knows? Like, oh my god.
Twitter, well, the thing is, like, Twitter is like the fun social media where you can just literally doggy doo doo.
Literally, yeah. It's like, who am I on Twitter? I don't know. Who am I? Like, it's just.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I'm like worried about. I'm like, I don't think that fits my brand really well. Then I see all my friends. I'm like, no, wait, hold on, this
it fits my brand perfect.
Yeah, this is okay. But
you guys seem to have a fun time. All you guys.
Twitter's fun. Twitter,
the sauce boys.
Like, I don't necessarily feel pressured to release content on Twitter, so it's just like if you want to see how stupid I can get on a social media platform, my Twitter is a perfect place to observe that.
I think we could all say that to an extent.
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely, man. Hey, well, dude, this has been awesome. I have enjoyed sitting down with you. You've like put out so much information and stuff that I had no idea about. This has been awesome. Do you have anything you want to plug in? I know you got a new song that just came out on Subsidia Records. Zero.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have notes. I have it off the top of my head. And
I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I have a couple of things that
it'll be out.
I put out Zero, which is one of the first releases on Subsidia. That was a fun track. I also put out like my little show reel, Brain Drain, which is pretty much just all the tracks I'm currently working on.
I saw that on SoundCloud. That was cool. Little 10-minute mix you had going there.
Yeah, a lot of them are coming out really soon. One of the last tracks on there is my Kaiwachi remix of Run, and that should be coming out. I want to get the exact day, October 14th, because I don't know when this podcast is coming out exactly.
So, in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, so by that time it'll probably be out. So listen to all those because I think they're cool. Maybe you will too. I don't know.
We'll make sure to put a lot of them in the description of. I'll try to link stuff. I always try to link stuff in the podcast description. So
yeah,
for sure, get that down.
Pretty much everyone can follow me on UBUR. Like I am UBUR on all social media.
You will not. You will love his Instagram content. Follow for that Instagram content. I'm preaching it right now. I love it, dude. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on, man. I had a blast doing this.
No, dude, no problem. Whenever like you have another open spot, I'd love to come back on again.
Dude,
I'm sure I can talk about more stuff.
Absolutely, we really could. I feel like we even didn't even scratch the surface of what we could talk about. I know we were talking about Xbox and Econ and all that stuff, so we can go deep into that stuff.
Yeah, but, I'm an encyclopedia for geeky shit.
I love it, dude. I love it. Like I said, man, I had a blast. Thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate taking time out of your day for it.
No problem.
Peace.